This is the Corsa Performance Closed Box Cold Air with the 3D dry filter in carbon fiber, and it's available for all 2014 through 2019 C7 Corvettes. Now you guys should be considering the Corsa for your C7 if you want to go with an extremely high quality, no tune required system to increase the power, torque, and throttle response on your ride, but also make quite the visual impact whenever you pop the hood. Now the Corsa will deliver that closed box design, making it a great choice for owners who are helping to lower intake air temperatures, and will outflow the stock intake system by over 14%, leading to some pretty healthy double-digit horsepower and torque gains. All right, guys, let's start off our features block here with some numbers. 15 and 15. That's the horsepower and torque Corsa is claiming with their closed box system installed on your C7 at home. Now, Corsa claims that these numbers are made possible thanks to the nearly 15% increase in airflow over the factory Corvette intake. More flow usually equates to more power, and that certainly is the case here. Now, moving away from numbers, let's talk about some other features with this airbox. Obviously, we can't help but notice that really baller carbon fiber finish, probably the largest feature with this particular intake outside of performance gains. Now, the carbon will add up to the final price point, as we'll talk about later in the video, but if you're going just for visual impact under the hood, something that's just gonna ooze quality, then the carbon fiber option really is going to deliver. Now, in addition to that, I really like the closed airbox design. Listen, this is gonna be your best bet at keeping those intake air temperatures down underneath the hood, especially when compared to what they call the open element style filters, where you're just basically seeing the filter under the hood. Sure, you're gonna get a lot more noise from a system like that, but ultimately the heat soak might be a little bit more of an issue long term, especially in hotter climates or guys that sit in traffic all the time. So overall, I would say big gains here from the Corsa without the use of any tuning. That really sharp carbon fiber construction, and of course the closed box design are some of the bigger features here with this system. All right, let's move into our construction block. And again, starting off with the airbox and filter. Filter especially is what's gonna be unique here with this kit outside of the carbon, because Corsa does also offer a few different filter options. This particular kit is going to feature the low maintenance Dry Tech dry filter that is cleanable and has about a 40 to 50,000 mile service interval. Now, Corsa does also offer their Max Flow oiled filter for owners out there who might prefer an oiled option instead. Just keep in mind those oiled options do require a little bit more in the way of maintenance, as you do have to clean them and then re-oil them over time. Now, that filter is gonna live in your very nice molded airbox here. Again, that does seal up nice and tight to help fight those higher intake air temperatures caused by that open element system. But again, getting back to my favorite part here about this option is the real deal carbon fiber construction throughout. Obviously gonna look amazing under the hood, no doubt, but honestly, maybe one of the lightest weight intakes I've ever felt here in my many years at AmericanMuscle.com, and also, by the way, very resistant to heat soak. So there's a lot of benefits when going with the carbon fiber, both from a functional and from a form standpoint. Now, of course, it does also kick in everything else needed for the install here, including all of your clamps, couplers, all that good stuff, making for a very easy install, as we'll show you here in a little bit. Last but not least, the system is backed by a lifetime warranty on essentially everything except the filter itself, which the filter does get a 1-year warranty by itself. All right, now let's get into that price point, and I kind of hinted at this a bit earlier, as the price for the Corsa is a bit of an eye-opener, especially when compared to some of your other intakes in the category. Corsa is gonna land maybe just south of that $1,000 price point here. Certainly is going to round out the upper end of the pricing spectrum for the C7 cold airs. Now, with that being said, there's actually something a little bit more crazy from Corsa. If you look on the site, they have a red carbon fiber version of this same exact intake. That's actually gonna cost you a little bit more, but the look or the appearance is totally unique. In fact, there's really nothing else like it in the category. Now, all the way on the other end of the spectrum, if you wanted to keep things more affordable, obviously we have a ton of rotomolded plastic options out there, both sealed and open, that will deliver a lot of the similar benefits, but without the flash of the carbon fiber. So with that being said, never a bad idea to check out the rest of our selection here at AM before making your final decision. All right, last but not least, let's talk install. And because cold airs traditionally are gonna be one of the easier things you'll perform on your C7 at home, the site's gonna call this a very soft 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about an hour or so to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of how this one might go down in the garage or driveway at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
All right, for this install, you're gonna need a 3/8 ratchet, an extension, various adapters, a 7mm socket, 8mm socket, and a 10mm socket, along with a pair of pliers and a Phillips head screwdriver. Today we're going to be installing an intake on our Corvette, but first we're going to watch a quick uninstall on how to take the factory intake out, and we'll meet you right here when you get back.
All right, now we need to start by taking out our air dam for our radiator. So we have 4 7mm bolts, 2 on either side, 1 here and 1 here. So we'll grab our ratchet, extension, and 7mm socket, take those 2 out. All right, once you have these 2 out of this side, you gotta do the same thing on the other side. Now we can just pull our scoop out of place and set it aside. All right, now we're gonna disconnect our vent line here. Now it's just a simple push and then lift up. You'll see on the side here, just push that part in. And then we're gonna disconnect our mass airflow sensor also. Pull back on our red locking tab, and push down and pull back. Now we're going to loosen our clamp on our throttle body and the air box up here. So there's a clamp here and a clamp here. Use our ratchet and 8mm socket and loosen those up. Those loosen up, we should be able to take our elbow off. Now we're going to get our air box out of the way. We have 2 10mm bolts, 1 here and 1 here. Grab our ratchet, extension, and 10mm socket. Take those 2 out. Now with those 2 out, our air box should come out. Just feed it around your line here.
All right, before we get the party started on our intakes, we're gonna have to transfer over a couple things to our new one. We have a new connector for our oil breather, and we also have a new hose fitting to adapt onto that. So we're gonna get started and transfer over our mass airflow sensor using our Phillips head screwdriver. We can unscrew that. And we can set the factory screws aside because we have new screws provided in the hardware kit. Just take note of your orientation when you take it out. Set this one aside. All right, now we can take our mass airflow and install it. Again, just be wary of the orientation. And just a quick note when tightening these down, you do not want to go too tight because this is carbon fiber, this will crack. All right, now we can assemble the air fitting for our oil breather. We can take our provided hose and our clamp. Get that situated on there. We're going to take our 90-degree elbow and insert it. All right, once you have that on, you can now set your clamp back. It's gonna look something just like this. Now moving back to the intake, we can fit our rubber grommet back inside. Underneath here, we're gonna go in sideways and then kind of push it down and work our way in. All right, once you have that installed, you can now take the air breather and insert that, and you may need to trim this hose to length or adjust your orientation. All right, one last thing we're gonna transfer over from the airbox is our mounting hardware. So we will remove the caps and the grommets from the airbox. Just take note of the orientation of the setup. Just line everything up. We go in with the rubber side first, and then back in with our metal clamp. And for our last grommet, you can choose to install it right now, or you can put this onto the fender first. Now we can install the factory grommet onto the post. Now we can carefully install the new airbox. And we're gently going to slide the airbox onto the grommet. Now we can take our factory 10mm screws and install them. Using our 10mm socket, we can tighten that up. All right, our last screw is going to be just behind the strut. It's a little tough to see. And then we're going to get that tightened down with our 10mm socket. All right, now we can put our filter onto our assembly. And we can snug this up using our 8mm socket. Now we can slide on our coupling. And we're going to leave that loose because we'll install it on the vehicle first. Now we can slide the entire assembly into place. All right, once you have your intake in place, you can now tighten up your coupling. Using an 8mm socket, you can tighten up the engine side first. Now you can connect your mass airflow sensor and slide in your locking tab. All right, our last step, we're going to be connecting our adapter for our oil breather. For demonstration purposes, we will not be trimming this to fit, but we're just going to line it up over here. We'll connect this end first, get that clicked in, and then we'll take our extension hose and push that on there. All right, now we can install our air dam back in place. All right, now we can install back our 7mm screws. I'm gonna do the top one first just to hold it in place. And we'll get our bottom one. It's kind of hard to see, but it's down there. All right, that wraps up our install for Corsa Performance closed box cold air intake with black Drytech 3D filter in carbon fiber for 14 to 19 Corvette C7, excluding Z06 and ZR1. Just remember, for everything Corvette related, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.